live. I am a few minutes late. So if you are watching this in real time, if you are watching this live, please put something in the chat box to tell me that the microphone is working. Wouldn't be the first or the last time for this microphone to crap out on me. It is March the 13th. It is a Thursday. The a relatively good sign. I'm going to be alone here for the first hour or so. In about an hour, I think, or thereabouts, there's a good chance Aaron Giants from NRK Outdoors is going to join me. He's one of a couple of people I really like to invite on if I'm going to be talking about anything related to PRS, NRL Hunter, etc. competitions. Interesting. All right, Mr. Jordan Ashby on YouTube says that you can hear me. That's excellent. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Phones crap out on me. So if you see me fiddling with this one, these are the ones I usually travel with, but it falls out of my fat ears somehow. So I end up basically trying to correct it all the time. All right, so I've got three things in mind for today that I want to cover. None of this, Jared is here. Good to see you, sir. Well, good to know you're here. I can see you. There are three things I'm looking to cover. One is my latest NRL Hunter experience. I figured that as I go through this interesting journey, I'll keep giving you guys update. And also, I'm curious as I'm beginning to shoot competitions whether my take on gear, anything like that, is going to change dramatically. So far, it hasn't. So I guess so far so good. But still, I had things go down on me in the match, and I'm trying to figure out what I need to have spares of and how to travel with this stuff and how to, well, honestly, for a competition like the NRL Hunter, gear management is a big deal. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. I shot part of the match at Masonville. I didn't shoot the whole thing. I'll talk a little bit about these Leica Geovid Pro AV Plus binoculars. I'm more or less wrapping up with my review of them. I'm going to take some through the binocular pictures and do a separate video on that. Excuse me, what? Okay, never mind. And I'll do a wrap-up video on that separately, but I'll take whatever questions you have. To a conclusion that for at least the things that I like doing in the modern world, if I am to spend money on a binocular, it's going to be a binocular with a LRF in it, unless you are on a very, very severe budget. As is my tradition, I have something to drink. And that's again still that peated Irish whiskey that I like. But this is a downer in case I start falling asleep on you. Still have my tumbler full of coffee. That's the DLO. Okay, Jared has a question. The big question is whether Leica, which I have examined by, is worth the money. As you say, past a certain point, the differences in optics are minimal. Okay, so if you... The short answer is yes, I think it is. Simply because so far, and there are some things coming out that might change this answer, but they're not out yet, not announced yet. So far, if you are looking for an LRF binocular with the minimal number of compromises, you're going to have to pay some money. The way it works, at the top of the heap of LRF binoculars are these Leicas, Swarovski, and Zeiss. Leica uses AB, Applied Ballistics ballistic engine. Swarovski and Zeiss, I think, use their own. A step down from them are a few binoculars like Revik, and there are a couple of, I think it's still $2,500, so it's quite expensive as well. And then a step down from that are in the $1,500 to $2,000-ish range, a couple of binoculars from a Chinese OEM that's actually quite good. but they, at least so far, do not offer you a ballistic engine. Okay? So the big question is on whether you are interested in a ballistic solution in the binocular or not. If you're interested in a ballistic solution in the binocular, I haven't tested the Revic yet, but basically you're going to pay some money. But the good part is that now finally LRF equipped binoculars sufficiently good where I don't miss a high-end non-LRF binocular. Okay. If you do not need a ballistic solution and you are not itching to spend quite this much money, then you do have an option, and your option is a binocular like just the best bang for the buck. I'd say there is a Delta has a titanium RF binocular 9 by 45, and the Opta has optical LR 10 by 42. I just got done testing with. I've talked about. I actually have mine for sale because since I have this one, I don't need that one. Those are probably your best bang for the buck. But again, if you want a ballistic solution, you're gonna pay. That's pretty much the way it boils down. Now there are a few other products on the way that should be somewhere in between price-wise, but until they are out and we know how they perform, we simply don't know. Right? Until then, all I can say is based on I can only talk about I'm getting tongue-tied. I can only talk about the things that are already on the market. This thing, it's very falls out of my ear, and then it also drops the volume. How interesting. Must be a button there at the bottom of the lowers the volume. New features in this headset. I hope this sort of answers your question, Jared. The big question really is to figure out what you're looking to get out of this. For example, if you're only doing stuff during the day, then lesser things like the SIG and Vortex Fury 5000 HD might be good enough. And the LRF in those is quite good. And optically, they're decent for looking at things during the day, but if you also hunt with these things, and I hunt with these things, it's not good enough, in my opinion, right? If you're gonna face any sort of challenging lighting conditions, your best bet is to pretty much spend the money. And I will say this, right? So having looked at more or less everything on the market very, very carefully, I think this is the best overall, especially in terms of center field resolution. Swarovski is very, very good, and it is a little bit wider field of view, and I think it has better edges. But in the center, the sweet spot, I think Leica is a little bit better. So take it for what it is. Okay, where was I? Oh, Aaron is already here. Thought he was gonna be here by 8. Okay, he's in the background. They're getting his camera set up. So he joined just in time to make fun of my NRL Hunter experience, which I've been told has been quite amusing. One of the guys who was out there with us took some pictures of me shooting, from which I've learned that, aside from the fact that I need to lose some weight, which is relatively obvious, one of the things I learned out of that is that there are those three magic words that make you forget all of your fundamentals, trained skills, everything you practiced, etc. And those 3 words are time starts now, right? And the moment you hear those 3 words, everything you've trained and practiced, tried to figure out for so diligently, basically goes out the window. So, all right, I think the camera is working. All right, Aaron, let me know when you want me to add you to the stream. You're muted, so whatever you said, I can't hear.
Anytime.
Anytime. All right. Let's get Aaron on there. There we go. Mr. Giants, good of you to join me.
Good to be here, as always.
All right. You are just in time. I was just about to make fun of myself shooting an NRL Hunter match.
Well, I've never shot a Hunter match, so I can't really make fun of you for it.
It's frustrating, so I'm shooting another one in 3 weeks, which is probably not super surprising. But anyhow, so...
That's how you get better.
That's how you get better. So to repeat for Aaron, I've got 3 things on the agenda today. I want to talk about NRL Hunter. I shot the match in Mason Valley, well, part of the match. I want to talk, kind of do some wrap up for the Leica Geovid Pro AB+, which should take about 8 seconds because I've got only one thing to complain about and they're fixing it in the next version. And then I'm going to kick off another fairly large sort of a comparison like scope test based on scopes with 40-44mm objectives, something like that. And I've got a bunch of them here. And toward the end, if there is time, we'll talk about them. I have here 3. And here's a couple more. And I think there's another one. I think I've got a total of 7 that I'll be looking at. And I'll tell you what they are. All different in many ways, but they all share the same rough objective lens diameter. So I thought rather than trying to do a true side-by-side, which gets a little bit tricky, they all cost different, I'm going to go over where they fit, what they're best at, why some of them are designed the way they are, packaged the way they're packaged, etc. Before I get more, all of a sudden our viewer count went to 0. Okay, now there are 2 on Rumble. How interesting.
Looks like there's 6 on YouTube now.
Yeah, it was about 8 or 9, and then it went to 0. How interesting. Okay, any questions before I get moving? Going once, going twice. I'm just checking if the stream is going to all the relevant platforms. It is going to locals. Was it not going to locals? Let's see. It is going to locals, okay. All right. So far, so good. Okay, people are still coming in. So for background, this year I decided to start shooting NRL Hunter since of all the different practical shooting disciplines. This is the one I find the most interesting. It involves getting ready, doing things on time, going into a stage blind, finding the plates, yada, yada, yada. So it's more than just shooting. Not that shooting isn't hard enough by itself. I felt like there's not enough pain in just shooting. Okay, missed the axis here. Excellent. I felt that that is an insufficient level of pain and that I need to make life more difficult for myself, so here we are. In January, I shot in the Pro-Am match as an amateur. If you go in as an amateur, you can watch other people shoot, you can do all sorts of stuff. In a normal NRL Hunter match, if you guys are not familiar with it, here's the gist of it. You have 4 minutes, you shoot a stage blind. There is an area where you congregate waiting for your turn. In that area, there's a little flyer that says, okay, on this stage, you're going to be looking for 4 plates, let's say. They will be of this shape, and you need to engage them from 1 position, or 2 plates from 2 positions, or 1 plate from 4 positions, right? Those are the 3 options. The only stage where you shoot only 1 plate from 1 position is the mover stage. There's 1 mover stage, and you just get in 1 position, try to find that mover if you can, and shoot the stupid thing. None of these variants work particularly well for me, and it all came grinding down to because you actually need to find the stupid things. When you walk up to the stage, they tell you from this particular spot, i.e. they guarantee that you can see all 4 plates. Which every once in a while I think they're bullshitting me, but perhaps. So from this position you can see all 4 plates. Then if there are specific shooting positions you need to shoot from, they're also identified by little white flags. And then sometimes they just tell you need to move 12 inches from this one spot. Or if there's like a pile of rocks and they say, okay, you need to figure out 4 different shooting positions. From each one of them, you need to be able to touch that pile of rocks with any part of your body, hand, foot, left testicle. I don't know. If you have a glass eye, maybe you can put it in the rocks and shoot from somewhere else. I don't know if that works. But anyhow, but that's basically how this works, right? And as I was saying earlier, I practice quite diligently. I spent a lot of time and effort on this. I want to get better. And the moment you hear those 3 fatal words, time starts now, all of your fundamentals go to hell in a handbasket. So the good part is that the stuff that I was practicing was the right stuff. I was doing the right things. The bad part is that the one thing you can't easily practice, finding the plates, still is what has been the hardest for me. And my shooting has been absolutely atrocious, but partly because I left myself very little time and because I was pissed off from not finding the plates, and I'm basically not managing any of this especially well. The match I shot a bit over a week ago was in Mason Valley, California, and that was my first match I shot as a normal shooter. You can go in as a skills shooter, where you can watch other people shoot and all this sort of stuff. So that I wanted to go through it as under the normal stresses of time pressure, unknown conditions, and all that sort of stuff. I think me being me, that's probably a better way to learn, because the catch is, in theory, I know how to do all of this. I've been doing this for a long time. In practice, on the clock, I suck. Okay. I didn't learn any new skills during this Mason Valley match. I learned a couple of things talking to other shooters. I just learned that I still suck and I need to practice more, which is probably not that much of a discovery, but it's nice to reinforce pre-existing notions every once in a while. The match we shot in Arizona, we got to shoot prone a lot, which from a shooting standpoint is easier. The match in Mason Valley in California was very dependent on the tripods, right? So I'm going to share a couple of pictures that somebody else took of me. There we go. So let's see if this... There you go, right? So this would be very common. There is all sorts of brush. You can't really get down. And the catch is that there were quite a few stations where, okay, maybe I can get down and see them, but it's kind of touch and go. And I'm already running out of time. Do I really want to drop on my belly and start experimenting, right? So if you look at this, like here, you have to shoot off, like have to be touching the car. This is, that was quite horrible. Pretty much all of this stuff, you end up, right? Here is a fence. In theory, I could probably try to drop down and shoot through one of those openings in the fence. In practice, if that does not work, I do not have time to change shooting positions. So you start relying on your tripod quite a bit. Where I could, I did shoot standing. I shoot kneeling, excuse me. And one of the things with kneeling, let me see if I could zoom in. If you notice, behind my right knee, there is a little bag. So that's what allows me to shoot kneeling. I cannot sit my ass all the way back on my heels. I ended up shooting with 2 bags, and I brought a separate small lightweight Coltac bag just to be able to put it behind my knee, and that allows me to shoot kneeling, not especially well, but something. Okay. So most of this match I spent basically doing this, and the picture does not give you the emotional content of what you saw, but I've been told that my verbalization when in English is quite funny. The last stage I shot looked like this. We have to find these little prairie dogs. I was only able to see one, and that one was very, very easy to find. The rest I have no clue, and then you basically shoot off of these metal things. Here I tried to do tripod rear just to understand that I suck in setting up tripod rear on the clock. Okay, so that was that. So what can I get out of all of this? First of all, NRL Hunter is an absolute blast. If you haven't done it, you should do it. at some point in time, what I need to do. So the way these things work, if you go and be a range officer, you on the first day you shoot all the stages or as many as you can manage, and then you're a range officer for the next 2 days. I should probably do that. If I manage to add an extra day of my travel schedule, it would be very interesting. First of all, shooting, even if it's more in one day, is not a bad idea. And two, if you're a range officer, you get to watch a lot of other people shoot. So you kind of get a combination of going through the stages as a normal shooter without too many perks. But on the other hand, as a range officer, you get to watch a lot of people attempt that particular stage, and you learn a lot about different options. So it's probably something that I should do in the future. Okay. As far as gear goes, so I shot it with a 308. I shot it with my fixed 308, and I think I had a picture of it here. So this is the gun. Okay. This is exactly the way it was. It's a vertical grip that we discussed last time. Aaron and I were here. Tangent data 5 to 25, a Gunworks bipod that I only used once, I think, and a factory 308 ammo. No issues with the gun, no issues with feeding, no issues with the scope, which is kind of nice. Interestingly, the next day after we're done with the match, I had some. The reason I went to that match, I had some work stuff to do in California. A friend of mine lives there, snuck out in the evening on Monday after this full match to go shoot plates at the Angeles shooting range. If you're in LA, you know what it is, with a friend of mine. And there, I'm pretty much better. It's interesting, he hasn't seen me shoot in quite a long time. He observed that I'm shooting better and much, much faster than in the past, which I like. And about 50, 60 rounds in, I fire a shot, and something makes impact with my forehead, which I thought was interesting. I can attest that the elevation turret of a 5 to 25 tangent data scope is very solidly built, especially when the energy of the recoil of your rifle sends it straight in the middle of your forehead. I sent this picture to the guys at Armament. They said something along the lines of "Holy fuck" with a heavy Canadian accent, and in 5 minutes, in 5 minutes, I had the return label. It got there today. I'm gonna call them up next week and see what the fuck, right? I do not know if they've ever seen an elevation turret fly off of a tangent scope before. They couldn't remember offhand if anybody else has done it, so I might be special that way. But then again, I've got thousands of rounds behind the scope, and it's been in some very compromising situations. So we'll see. Then again, during the match, no issues. It was zeroed when I got there. When the next day after I got to the range and checked zero, it was zeroed. I was shooting plates. I was hitting everything I was aiming at. I felt good and I was shooting well. That was probably God's way to remind me that I still suck by getting slapped with an elevation turret on the head. So, that was it. I'll drink to that.
I've seen a lot of crazy things, but I've never seen that one. So I've seen the reticles fall out of tangent datas. I've seen 3 of those in one weekend happen.
Wow, that's significant.
It's when they changed the design.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the design of the internals, and they made a mistake. And I watched 3 of them go down at the same time. They were all from the same batch. Like,
yeah, look,
it happens.
anything made by man can be broken, often breaks. Shit happens, right? Does it change my opinion of the reliability of tangent scopes? No. I've seen just about every scope. I've seen every brand of scope broken in some way, shape, or form. Every single one. So,
I just wish the tangent's reticle wasn't so thin.
I just had that discussion with them.
It's thin enough that I found it unusable and I had to sell mine.
What did you switch to?
Oh, I've downgraded quite a bit. I run a Mark V and a Gen 3 Razor and some other stuff.
Wait, so Gen 3 rays is not too thin, but tangent is too thin?
Mhm. Yeah.
How interesting.
Well, I haven't ran a tangent for over 5 years, so I don't know if they've thickened it
Okay.
up. But
No, it's the
I
same one, but
found,
I thought it was not any thinner than a Gen 3. I have that one. Mark 5
yeah,
is a little bit
I
thicker.
found that a tangent for my eyes is not usable under like 12 to 14 power.
Oh, how
Like
interesting.
I
No,
just can't see it.
well, how interesting. No, I have any issues with it. I shot almost all of that match, I think, on 10 or 11 power without any issues.
Yeah.
So,
But
but anyhow,
I've also had my eyes worked on since then, so maybe I need to
oh,
get behind one again.
yeah. I wouldn't mind if they built up the reticle a little bit, especially in the 3 to 15. But different folks, different strokes, right? So they have their key customers, and that's who they should be listening to the most. But if you like somewhat more visible reticles, you will like the reticles in the Stelson scopes.
I'm actually ordering mine right now
Excellent. Which one?
on my other screen. I'm literally placing the order.
Which one?
The 3 to 18.
Excellent. That's the one I have. So
Yeah, that's what you told me to get.
I didn't
So
tell you to get it. I told you that's what I use.
no, you told me if I was going to get a clip-on thermal, that's the one to go with.
Oh, well, yes, correct. If you want to do a clip on thermal, that one should work.
That's what we talked about on our last live stream.
Yeah, I remember. I just didn't know that you listened to me. How am I supposed to expect that?
I was just waiting for them to be like, kind of close to arriving. So
Yeah, no, they're close. And right now, so since we're talking about it, they've got a pre-sale event. Their first full production batch is on the way. They're trying to get scopes out there to generate some word of mouth. So if you go on their website, they were working on it. I think it's going live tonight.
yeah, it's
30%
live. That's why I'm placing the order.
It's 30% off, and if you use a coupon Telson10, it stacks another 10% on top of it. So if I
Instead of using Max's affiliate code, I should do that.
If you use my affiliate code, it gets you 6% off. If you, I'm gonna share my screen momentarily. Right there you go. So let's see. Do you see that? There you go. So the way it works right now, the top of the line thing is 5 to 32. That's now under 1500, and then you get 10% off of that. And for the 3 to 18, it's now 1119, and you can get 10% off of that with the Telson 10.
Yeah,
And those have a pretty decent. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in my cart right now, if you stack those, the 6% one, I have 1052.77 is what the total is in the cart.
Well, if you use Telson 10 instead of the affiliate one, it's 10%.
I know, but I feel like I should support Max.
Whatever works. So what I did, I do have an affiliate account.
The commission with me. I mean, that's
what
I told him.
So what I'm doing something a little bit different. So I have an affiliate account with Telson, but because I work with them on the back end of it, I don't want to take an affiliate commission. So for any sales that come from me, the DLO, after this pre-sale is done, the DLO 6 coupon will get you 6% off, and they will track how many sales come from me, and whatever commission amount is generated will be converted to store credit, and I'll raffle it off during these live streams. So I think that's the best way of doing this. You guys get a discount and a chance at a significant discount, and Telson gets some publicity, and I don't feel like I'm double dipping. But anyhow, so where were we? Yeah. So Jared, I see your question. We'll get to that. I'll finish my story about the Mason Valley match. So as I mentioned earlier, it was very, very tripod heavy match, which in principle is a good thing for me because I shoot off of a tripod a lot. I'm not especially good at it, but it's not a new thing, right? I do it all the time. Well, special just for me, my tripod decided to do this. I'm gonna see if I can share a video. And just so I was shooting with the Field Optics Research, this inverted dome tripod, which I really like the design. They had the prototype I had the same issue. The production scope did not seem to have that issue. So I took it to a match. I practiced a lot with it. It was working flawlessly. At a match, it started doing this. With everything tightened. Okay. Can you hear? Can you hear me talking?
Yes, I can hear you talking.
Can
Oh,
you
in
hear?
the video?
Yeah.
No, I can't hear you talking in the video.
So the video is silent. Okay. So I'm gonna run it again. So basically, with everything tightened and all that, the head somewhere inside developed this play again, where for about 90 degrees it just rotates freely. Okay. So I'm showing you that everything is tightened. The head is fully tightened. Nothing's supposed to move, right? And it does this. So with this sort of a looseness in the turret, a recoil control, and being able to spot your shots and all that became a little bit difficult. Okay. That sucked. I was having enough problems as is. That did not help at all.
I will refrain from commenting.
On Field Optics Research? Or
Yes.
on me and tripod? Okay.
No, on the brand.
Why not? Why would you refrain from commenting?
Because I don't like them.
Okay. So say what you will. Like there's nothing to hide here.
I don't care for the owner of it, nor do I think his products are that great.
So I have
take it or leave it. So
yeah, that's fine. So I really like their older bowl top tripod called Pro 32. That was my first serious tripod. It's heavy, it's heavy duty, it's stable. I've done very well with it. The dome top is a very clever design, clearly half baked. Okay. So in case you're wondering, I from right there to match, I sent a picture, an explanation of that to Vince. He just about had a heart attack, I think. That is what it is. I'm not in this to make friends. I'm in this to report exactly what the gear does. If people don't like it, tough shit.
Yep.
So, but anyhow, so I sent it back to him. They already have it, and I'm looking forward to an explanation what exactly got fucked up. The next match, so the first match I shot with an inverted leg Sunway photo tripod. Next one in Colorado, I'll shoot with an inverted leg tripod from Telson. So they have one. I just received it yesterday, started playing with it. It seems like a nice tripod, quick to deploy. Seems to work pretty well. It's about the same size as my inverted leg Sunway photo tripod. And they are a little bit different how the head is done. I think it's going to be a nice comparison. I should do a video on that. Okay. So, and then what else about the match? Lastly, in terms of the organization, the match was not run as well as Arizona match, but I don't know if this is normal or if Arizona match was unusually well run. So I have no idea. I've only shot in 2 matches, so it's hard to say. People are mostly okay. It isn't California, so I've had a lot of California people. Some are nice people, some are California people. On one stage, they are pissed me off. But it's fundamentally it's my fault. But they had this truck shut us off, right? Because it was fairly far, and they didn't let us drive our cars. Fine, I get it. No parking space. So on one of the stages, I get off the truck. Raros, come over. Okay, let's shoot. I'm usually, even if you don't have a chance to prepare, when you get to the starting point, they usually tell you, okay, you're looking for this many plates, yada yada. They take me to the starting point, say the time is now, go. I have no idea what plates I'm supposed to be looking for, nothing. So I was happy. I don't know who those arrows are. I've never seen them before. They have to chew them. They're dicks.
I would have not gone.
Yeah, but that was my sort of an experience. Right? At every other stage before you come to the point that before the time starts, they kind of go over, you know what to do, what you're looking for, etc. And that would have been enough, right? But that one, once again, that's called inexperience. And again, I'm new at this. I know I move slow. I don't want to hold people back, so I feel guilty if I'm taking too much time, right? So I fell for it. It's my own fault. Uh,
It
let's see.
happens.
Yeah, not a mistake I'll make again. I'm genuinely incredibly comfortable telling people to go fuck themselves. Uh, that would have been probably the right time to exercise that skill, but I figured
Must be
I'll
your
be nice for once.
heritage.
I'll be nice for once, and I paid for it. Let's see. And the last thing, so you know how California is famous for good weather and all that? Yeah, this was not one of those weekends. We had sand blowing in the face, 40 mile per hour wind gusts, and I decided to bring a 308 to that match. And the funniest thing is that so I'm preparing for this match in Colorado. I'm gonna go shoot my 6.5 PRC because I'm just trying a couple of different guns and all that. And then I realized that I'm retarded and I should have taken the 6.5 PRC to California, partly because of the wind and partly because the 6.5 is equipped with a muzzle brake. All right, but in Colorado I can shoot with a suppressor, so I could have taken my suppressed 308 instead of pulling the suppressor off. All that sort of stuff. So now I need to decide what to shoot in Colorado. I bet if I bring the 308 again, then they're gonna have gale storm winds and all that sort of stuff. With my luck, that's usually how this works.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to shoot a match where you could bring two rifles and you could pick on the stage which one you wanted to use.
In an NRL Hunter, you grab your shit, water, snacks, ammo, etc. in a backpack, and you walk around with it. So, I would not want to be walking around with two rifles for shits and giggles.
I mean, if you can have two 12-pound rifles, it equals one the weight of one PRS rifle.
Yeah, but you don't walk around with a rifle in your hands the whole day.
So get a bag with a sheath.
Ooh. Anyhow, it's doable if you really wanted to, but I'm not teaching.
I think it'd be fun to do a match, not a hunter match, but I think it'd be fun to do a PRS style match with you could bring multiple rifles.
Well, I tell you what, right? So next year or year after, you come and do the Burris Optics Challenge match with me, where you have two shooters with two rifles, and occasionally you have to swap them.
Is that in Colorado?
Wyoming.
Ooh, that's even closer.
For you, it's not far.
No, shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You want to shoot a fun rifle match? Probably the hardest one I've ever shot. Hornady PRC in Woodruff, Utah. It is the craziest match I've ever shot, but it's so fun, so fun. Not a ton of walking. It's literally you walk to the firing line. It's a fish hook of a hill.
Okay.
It hooks up like a fish hook and then comes back down. But you shoot from 200 yards to a mile. So
nice. Very cool.
So it's fun. It's a fun one. Put on by George Gardner at GA Precision and Hornady. It sells out in the first few minutes, or it sells out really fast.
I can probably get a spot if I really want to, but we'll see. My basic shtick is that I try to find matches that correspond to my different work trips. So it's not a separate trip, so that I can add a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't. This is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Let's see. I know. I have this feeling there was something else about gear that I wanted to point out. I'm sure it'll come to me. Did I miss any questions? Okay, Mr. Jared goes, what are the closest competitor to the Leica in Zeiss? That's about a lot of binoculars to the Leica. Swarovski is probably the closest. I don't see Zeiss as prominent. But Swarovski is the closest.
Have you played with the Vector X's?
I've seen them a little bit. I have not spent a ton of time with them. It's very, very nice LRF, from what I can tell. I really like how they do the display. When we talk about the Leica, we'll talk about that a little bit. Optically, it is very good. It's not as good as the Leicas, but it is very good. I think it's somewhere between the Leicas and the Gen 2 SIGs. I don't know how they compare to the Ravic BLR or whatever it is. It is very good optically. It's not bad at all. And it has a big advantage for a lot of stuff of having an edged reticle.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So we had a few. There were a few people in the match with those, and they seemed to be reasonably happy. And again, the Gen 2.6, the 10K binoculars gotten better. Gen 1 was not great optically. So we'll see. Mr. Alpen says great pictures. I'm gonna tell Jeff. Thank you for that. Jeff was one of the guys who was shooting match with me. He was teamed with a friend of mine, who Scott, who is also part of my DLO community. So we were walking through it together, and I gotta say that having people there that we tried to get on the same squad, having people you know on the same squad you can chat with made it a lot more fun. Right? So a lot of it is about the people. Okay.
Yeah, I'm preparing to shoot my first match in several months. On Saturday. So
what match are you gonna shoot?
It's a PRS. It's a local PRS 22 match. It's been
cool.
It's been a little bit since I've been out, so it's gonna be wet and muddy. Be very interesting.
So I have not shot a or any that style match. So is it more like a normal PRS style? You know what the stage is, you know what the plates are, so you get to pre-dial and prepare, and then you have what a 4, 5, 6, whatever shooting position and 2 minutes, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's just a PRS match, right? So or NRL style match. So typically 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm tired. So typically 2 minutes. 10 shots can be up to 15 shots.
Okay.
Typically, I've shot some where they've been 19 rounds in 2 minutes. So it's just the same as a PRS, right?
Okay.
The PRS don't have a written course of fire, so they're all separate, right? I think you have to have at least 6 stages of 10 rounds to qualify as a PRS match, and you have to have a certain number of shooters for it to qualify.
So that's a PRS rimfire.
PRS rimfire, yep. And this one's being put on by a 14-year-old boy. He's the match director on this one, and he might be 15. I don't remember, but he shoots very well. He's one of the top shooters in. He's hard to beat. I beat him sometimes, and he's beat me a bunch of times, but he's been practicing a lot more than I have, and he's been winning. It's been very exciting to watch him, but he's putting it on. So that's the reason I'm going to the match. His dad reached out and said, "Hey, Easton's got the match this month because it's 2 hours and 10 minutes from my house." So I'm like, "Yeah, for Easton, I'll be there." So I signed up, and I'll be down in Hobble Creek shooting the PRS match on Saturday. So we'll see how it goes. I'm a little rusty.
Okay, well, I can tell you good luck. So how far is it, like a 22X out to 400 yards, or what kind of distances?
Yeah, so this range will support about 210 yards.
Okay.
So it's not...
and what is the typical target size?
2 MOA typically, depending on your distance, right? 2 MOA or smaller. When you get out a little farther, like on a rimfire match, so like once you get beyond 200 yards, unless you really have your gun dialed in, it's extremely difficult for people to hit those targets. So you'll see them like get to 4 MOA targets as they go farther out, because you really have to have your gun dialed in to be consistently accurate with a 22 beyond 200 yards. You need your cone of fire to be 1 MOA at 100 yards, because if your cone is bigger than 1 MOA, it gets really big really fast as you go out.
So what rifle are you shooting?
So I shoot a Voodoo 24-inch 1-2 straight taper barrel in an MPA Matrix chassis.
Okay. Nice and lightweight.
What?
Nice and lightweight, yes.
Yeah, it's about 21 pounds, I think, with a Gen 3 Razor on top of it. And typically I shoot Lapua Center X out of it.
Very cool.
So I'm not the biggest nerd. I haven't sent my gun to be tested. So I just have bought random Center X and I shoot it.
I've been there twice with 2 different guns. Both times ended up ordering 10,000 rounds for each gun.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I'll send it off I'll send it off to be
Don't
tested.
set it off. Come on over. I'll go with you.
Oh, that's true. Actually, my buddy and I were talking about driving down and doing that.
Yeah.
So
It's about 6 hour drive from me, so I've gone and I go to Arizona for work a
okay.
good bit. So the guy who does the testing, he's a good dude, very pleasant. It's funny, like in the beginning, you ask him questions, because they see all sorts of guns, as you can imagine, right? And they have a tunnel where they test stuff. So first, he was very politically correct. He doesn't want to say bad about any gun or anything else. You spend a couple hours there, he warms up a little bit. You learn all sorts of stuff.
And the truth comes out.
Yeah. So, for example, my T1X, while generally quite accurate by the standards of T1X, he was unimpressed. But it is legitimate 1 MOA rifle at 100 yards with the ammo I got from them.
Yep. I traded for a T1X, and it's super dirty. I need to clean it. I haven't tested it for accuracy, but I used my dope from my CenterX Kestrel reading on Ely Club, and I walked it out to 400 yards. So that T1X is freaking accurate because I used dope from a different ammo in a different gun, and I could walk it out to 400 yards.
You were close enough where you could walk it out. And
yeah, I was close enough. And because like the CenterX comes out of the gun at like, I think mine comes out at like 1080, but like Ely Club will come out at like 1120. So it's going faster, a little different profile. But we were able to walk it out to 400 yards the first time I took the gun out.
Oh, very cool.
So I was watching my brother-in-law. I was shooting. We were teaching a class, or I was helping my buddy teach. I was helping Tony teach a class, and we were shooting they're shooting at like a 500-yard target, and my brother-in-law starts shooting the 22 behind, like not behind them, but like off to the side at the 400-yard target, and they all turn around because it's suppressed, so it's just like click, poof, and they're watching him hit 400 yards with it, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Because they were struggling to hit the 500-yard target with 6-sided Creedmoor. Well, it was a brand new class.
Oh, okay.
This is a long intro to long range class. These guys, brand new. Yes, they struggled to hit the target at 500 yards. I mean, and these are PRS style targets, so these are 2 MOA or smaller, right? So they're not easy targets to shoot at. I had much bigger targets, but they were a little farther out, and the wind was. They got to learn how to shoot in 25-mile-an-hour winds by the end of the day. But it was very interesting. So
I tell you what, get your guns, set them to my address and your name, fly to Albuquerque. We'll go shoot at my ranch here. I'll pick your brain incessantly, and then I'll drive you to Arizona and back.
That's fine. I'm not the greatest wind caller in the world.
Yeah, you're better than me.
But once you learn, there's a quick win method. It's called mile per hour for your gun.
Yeah, I know. Again, in theory, I know how it all works.
Yeah, it works pretty well. It works pretty well.
That's what I usually do. And the nice thing is that at this match, and I see the comments here, guys. We'll go through everything momentarily. At this Mason Valley match, I missed a couple of wind calls, but they were far away and the winds were significant. Aside from that, on the plates, the size of what we're shooting NRL Hunter, this mile per hour method is not bad, right? So my 308 is a 5 mile per hour gun, right? Which basically means is that
that's pretty freaking good.
This is interesting 308. When I took a long range class,
because my 6 Creedmoor was a 7 mile an hour gun.
Well, my 6.5 Creed is a 6 mile an hour gun. My 308 is a 5 mile per hour gun. So when I took it to the class and year, just wanted to brush up, learn some new things, etc. It was good. It was a good class. It was more of it was like intermediate, just after the intro. They have a separate intro class, and that's the 3-day class. So it was a lot of fun. But the guys watching the chase, the guys who were teaching, watching the spotter, they asked me, "What gun you're shooting?" I go, 308. It's not a 308. It doesn't fly like a 308. I go, like, here's the ammo. So, and then again, I got top shooter every day and all that sort of stuff.
But, yeah, and just a caveat to what Ilya said. It doesn't matter how good you are. I went to a beginner long-range class with my dad 2 years ago. I had gifted the instructors some gear, and I got a couple tickets for free, and I was like, I want to build memories with my dad. So I took my dad, and all I did was goof off. I knew the instructor very well, so I just make random comments and whatever. And I had been shooting probably 7 or 8 years by then. I learned 3 key things that have improved my scores, like my actual PRS scores, in that match, or sorry, in that class. It was amazing. So don't be afraid to take an intro class. If you think you're a more advanced shooter, go in, be humble, tease the professor a little bit or the instructor, but go in and learn. I learned 3 things: respiratory pause, natural point of aim, or I improved natural point of aim. Respiratory pause was huge, and then mile per hour gun stuff. Those are the 3 things I learned, and I've been doing this for years. I've been competing. This is my 10th year competing in PRS and 22 and things. So
the way it usually works with me is that I'm pretty good on the theory, as always. So in theory, I know how it all works, but in practice, I like playing with new gear so much that it severely limits my skill development. I'm trying to figure out how to balance that a little bit better. But again, I learned.
So this is how you balance it, because I like to play with gear too. Build a dedicated match gun that you use to compete with, and then have a gun you screw around with that you just go to the range for fun, that you practice with, you have fun with, like, or different guns, like, and it's completely understandable. You get all sorts of optics to test and all sorts of cool stuff to test. But when I stopped changing the gear on my competition rifle and I started respiratory pause, natural point of aim, and I started learning more and more about the wind, I went from a middle of the pack shooter to the top 15%.
Well,
and I did it in less than 9 months.
I'm trying to go from not knowing what I'm doing at all to mid-pack. Yep. And realistically, and I might have to eat my words, the pace that I'm going, like, I feel that I'm understanding. 5 or 6 matches in, I think I'll be mid-pack or close to it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even tell you the number of matches I've shot, and you learn from each one. But to a beginner who is just shooting matches, get out your spoon, get your whipped cream out, eat some humble pie. It is humiliating. It is rough. It is hard. It's a reality check, especially if you think you are a good rifle shooter. I've watched recon Marines get humbled by dentists, right? I've watched Army Rangers and Special Forces guys just get embarrassed by civilian shooters. And now, sniping, sneaking around, intelligence, that's a different line of work, right? But pure marksmanship in an improvised shooting position, the civilian world dominates the military, like just dominates it, because it's a very specialized class of shooting. So come into the sport, be willing to learn, be humble, because it is rough. It's a rough ego check for your first match. It just is.
I will say this: I didn't get humbled because I did not go in with any expectations. But
exactly. But a lot of guys do.
I had an unfair advantage. I'm friends with some of the best shooters in the world. Like, when I really want to have a question about wind, I can text David Top.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know what the guys who are really good are, right? There is a reason why when I want to talk about precision shooting, I drag Aaron on here, my buddy Will. I'm reasonably friendly with Phil Vallejo and with Frank Galley. Frank is a phenomenal shot, right? So, and Scott from Vortex.
But he doesn't compete very well.
He doesn't. But he goes and right.
Yeah, I mean, Frank is a great shooter, a great instructor. He doesn't compete very well. Just like Aaron is really smart, but I don't take tests very well. I don't. I never have. I never will.
Doesn't matter. So. I have all the, when I used to fight, we had guys in the gym who could hand everybody their ass in the gym. And you get them in the ring and they fold. They're the king of the gym, get them in the real fight.
Yeah, it's a different environment. Just like you said at the beginning of the video, the 3 words that will screw you up the most is to me, it's engage, right?
No.
See, I've never had an RO tell me that. It's always engage, right?
Yeah.
So it's the one word that gets you going, or in your case, it's the 3. For me in Utah and where I shoot, it's shooter stand by, shooter make ready, shooter stand by, engage.
Whatever those
That's the
words are, right?
sequence.
When you're on, and again, it's different with fighters. Yeah, I've seen plenty of guys who, with half the skill set, would beat the people who you look at them in the gym like they look unbeatable. Well, it's all different.
Yeah.
But again, in my case, I'm doing about as well as I thought I would be, and the things that are causing me, the things that I thought would cause me problems.
Mhm.
And for example, I'll go through the comments in a moment, but just to get it back to the LRF binos for a moment, right? I'm using the best glass in the world and I can't find the fucking plates. Not because I don't see them, because I'm looking in the wrong place, right? When I am actually looking at the place where they are, I see them just fine. I am fucking something up. The way I'm scanning, the way I am dividing this thing, there is a skill to it that
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to develop.
I mean that's half a sniper school, right? Find the fork at 900 yards that's taped to a tree that's painted brown. Like yeah,
Yeah.
I struggle with target acquisition, which is probably one of the reasons I have not shot a hunter match. Is I'm scared of the target acquisition, but
Yeah,
I've shot
but you
enough
could definitely do it.
open. Well, and I've just been busy. I need to. I have a gun in the safe that I could use. I just have been busy and lazy, and I did
Uh,
dedicate myself to 22 last year,
mhm.
and I won a second place trophy because of
Oh, nice.
that. And I burned myself out of matches a little bit because of that. So I've been taking a little slower, and then competitive baseball's picked up for my son and other things. But I do want to do a hunter match, and I will put together a gun and do one. But finding targets scares me.
Yeah, it should.
It's not a strength of mine. Now I've started hunting with my partners and stuff, and I can look at a mountain now and pick out animals and different things. But when I first started shooting, I could stare at a plate at 300 yards next to a bush and tell you, what are you even talking about? Like, so I struggle with that, and that's probably one of the reasons I haven't shot a hunter match. Is one, I don't like doing things I've never done before, which sounds ironic because I'm actually an open-minded, adventurous type of guy.
So for
But
the audience, I'm trying to
yeah,
guilt Aaron into it, not because I want him to feel miserable, but because I think he'd be a good company at the match. So
yeah, dude. There's nothing funner than doing shenanigans with a group of guys at matches. It's fun. You
okay.
you got to come and shoot the Guardian match in Colorado. That's just
When
there's
is
a
it?
group of us that's just it's like teenage schoolboy ground play.
When is it?
It's usually in August or October. I'll look it up.
Yeah, once you
Um,
figure it out, please tell me a little bit in advance, and I'm gonna try. I would love to go shoot.
yeah, it's at Cameo.
What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Cameo is
So
not that far. It's a junction, right?
yeah, yep. No, and,
Yeah.
and it's fun because like the goal of the match is to get the person shooting to laugh so hard that they can't shoot. Like that's the whole point of our squad. The squad is like, I want to make that dude on the firing line laugh so hard he can't breathe, and then
Uh,
he can't shoot anything. Then
oh,
we
I
just
got
make
it.
fun of him for the rest of the match.
Oh,
So
okay, that sounds like fun. Figure out when it is. Let me know. I'd
yeah,
love to
it's
go
fun.
shoot that Montana match that Tony's setting up, but I don't think I can do it this summer.
Yeah, oh man, that's rough because I think it's gonna be fun. I think,
It should be.
I think it's
I'll
gonna be fun.
try, but it's the chances are slim. I think I'll still be. I'm likely on those days to still be in Charleston in Southern Carolina,
Mm,
family vacation.
yep. Well, if you
All
ever
right.
sneak out to North Carolina, close to Wilmington, you ought to go to his range. He's been. I made a funny comment yesterday on his picture because it looks like he's turning his property into a mud wrestling pit because it sits in a meteor strike,
Mhm.
so his range is below sea level, and it's just like a freaking swamp at the moment.
Oh,
And
for
he's
fuck's
had a
sake.
D1 cat out there making it all muddy. They've been building crazy stuff. So I was just making fun of him. I was like, "What gun range you talking about? This looks like a redneck swimming pool."
Yeah, I took a training class like that last year, almost exactly a year ago in Florida. Just a one-day class with a friend of mine who teaches there. I was there for work. I did a day to go to go take a class, carving class, and the skies opened. The water, level in the ground in Florida about an inch and a half below the grass. So it basically became a mud pool, and we were shooting the VTAC barricade, And rain or shine, you have to shoot through all openings, including those little triangles.
On the
So basically, I
bottom.
had half of my head with an eye closed into the mud to be able to shoot. It was interesting. Well,
Yeah.
my optic filled up with water. I finished it with the auxiliary red dot and all that.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you're cleaning your gun after that for sure.
I
All
still
the
haven't.
mud and
I
so here
ha-
we've got the. Do you guys got moon dust in?
What's
So we call it moon dust here in Utah. It's just kind of the desert dust. As you shuffle your feet, it becomes super powdery, like almost powdery enough it feels like a liquid. Like it's
no,
just dust, and it like
it
so if
was.
you've got ruts in the road and a
Yeah.
bunch of people drive through, you will actually fill the rut, and when you drive over it, it feels like liquid. Like it's the craziest stuff ever. We
No,
call it moon dust,
yeah.
and it gets everywhere. Like if it's windy. So if you go on if you follow any of the Ruth Sosi, she was the national match director last year for the NRL 22 championship. She's on Team USA. She's headed to England to shoot. She came to Utah and shot the 22X match a week ago, and she's like freaking moon dust. She's like trying to get it all out of her bag. Her whole gun's coated in it. Like I'll send you a picture if I can find it.
That would be.
I shot a
So,
match in 40-mile-an-hour winds.
yeah.
One half of my gun is like completely brown and caked. The other half looks perfectly clean.
Well, that's like right now we have winds and sandstorms, and where my range is basically a sand pit. So coming back from the range, I basically look like a chia pet covered with sand. So.
Yep.
But anyhow, let's catch up on a couple of questions here,
Hit the questions.
and then we'll continue. So let's see. Mr. Jordan Ashby has some sort of a somewhat related questions. If you have time at the end, let me know. Jordan, just ask a question.
Yeah, there's never time at the end. Just ask
Yeah.
questions.
If I think it's too long of an answer, I might answer it toward the end, but at least I have a chance to think about it. Mr. JLG had the SIG 10K and then got the Geovid Pros. Optical is definitely a good move.
What is the Geovid? What is that?
Leica. That's the Leica.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the SIG 10s are great range finding binos, but I hate the blue color.
So the Gen 2 is better, but it's still blue, not as blue.
Oh, they're blue. Like blue enough to make me want to throw them at someone.
Yeah, well, no. Okay.
I mean, Area 419 did a video on them, right? When the Vector X's come out,
yeah.
And you watch the camera, geez, they are blue.
So camera shows it, in my opinion, more blue than it is.
Yeah, well, my eyes don't like it at all.
Yeah, I'm not crazy with it. So interestingly, so Mr. JLG liked optical Geovid Pros, but didn't like the body. Went to Gen 2 10Ks and liked the glass, etc. So I generally agree with you, except I like the body. So the Geovid Pro, notice the body is not straight. These are not roof prisms. There is this prism that Leica guys designed about a decade or so ago, maybe a little more, called the Perger prism, Perger. Technically, it's a type of a Porro prism, and Leica has a patent on them, so nobody else can use them. It doesn't need any reflective coatings in the prism. It's total internal reflection, and the way that prism is set up, it's very easy to add the image from a display in there without compromising optical quality. Leica is the only ones who do it. And
so
but
I
to
need
me,
to get a pair of Leicas. That's what I'm hearing.
yes. Well, you need to come here and play with them, or you need to get the next gen Leicas. I'll explain why in a sec.
I'll wait
So
for
this
them.
little curve in the body, for me, actually makes it significantly more comfortable to hold the way my wrists are shaped.
What power are those?
These are 10 by 42.
They look big.
They are big because these prisms are a little bit bigger,
Okay.
and the way they do the laser rangefinder is a little bit different.
Tell me they're going to put an etched reticle in the next generation.
I'm not aware of an etched reticle coming, but they will do a display differently.
They're going to put a ballistic calculator in them.
There is already a ballistic calculator. It's an applied ballistics. It's an AB.
Right, yeah.
So it talks to AB Quantum app and all that. So that's what I'm using.
So I've played with the Zeisses. It's been a few years, but So I did a national rifle match once. I hosted one with Paul Higley and a couple other guys, and the biggest compliment we got during the match is I didn't see a single rangefinder on day 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because we ranged with a Zeiss, a Vortex, and a Swaro, and a Leica. So we used all 4 of them, and we went from target to propped and propped to target for like, and we'd range like 7 or 8 times before we moved on when we wrote down the range. And so I had a chance to play with most of them. I haven't played with a newer Zeiss, but the older Zeisses were nice.
All of the Zeisses are nice, but in terms of the distance, I think they still cripple them a
Yeah,
little bit. And their ballistic calculator, in my opinion, is not as reliable as they be. But either way, so there is not a huge amount of differences in terms of optical quality between a top-end Zeiss, Leica, and Swarovski. So before you spend that much money, I'd suggest try all three and see. Leica,
which one has the best electronic warranty? That's what I want.
I honestly don't know. I mean, they all seem to have pretty decent warranty. The best electronics warranty is usually a Vortex.
Yeah, I know. I had a pair of Furies that wouldn't range. That being said, I did notice we had a pair of Sig 10s out in the field on New Year's Day, and it was snowing. And my buddy got so mad that freaking Sig would not cut through the snow.
Yeah.
It picked up every single flake, and I had a Vortex 4K, just a handheld. That thing cut through the snow, went right through the snow to the target and back. But the Sig 10's probably the first gen. I don't think he's got a second gen. It would pick up every freaking snowflake at 17 yards, 16 yards. It would not go through the snow.
Interesting. The Gen 2 Sig I played with had a good LRF. I can't complain.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him if he's got a Gen 1 or a Gen 2. He's a gear horse. They probably are Gen 2s. But he got so mad that it would not go through and these were huge snowflakes, like the Hallmark snowflakes, that are big and magical. The rangefinder would not cut through it. It was crazy.
So if you want the best warranty, well, maybe we'll talk offline.
Yeah, the best warranty is Vortex probably, but I was not impressed with their Furies, but I also had a bad pair of Furies. Bad enough that I sent them back and they sent me a brand new pair.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit offline.
So,
one of the things that Leica does that is good for hunters, not great for match shooters, and I'll show that in the video at a later point, but the way they do the screen, you press a button to range. The laser is horizontal. You have a round aiming point. The laser basically cuts through it horizontally, and it extends to the edge of the aiming point. And when you range, it first shows you the range. Then a second later, the screen changes and it shows you the drop if you are doing ballistics. Then screen changes again. It shows you the wind, and then again the shot probability analysis. Right. So you have 4 numbers, but they're not on the same screen. They're never on the screen at the same time.
Which makes it slower for NRL hunting type of stuff.
Makes it slower for NRL hunting. Again, in my case, it didn't slow me down. That's not what brought me down. But for a top match shooter, it might be an issue. For hunting, that's a better way. You have much less cluttered display. For looking at shit, it is better. So on the next generation of rangefinders, they're going to go to something they call the matrix display. And again, the prisms they use make it easier to inject the image from a complicated display. And that's going to give you all the information on one screen. Optically, it should be the same as the current one, which is pretty freaking good. I don't know for sure when it's coming, but I'm not inclined to change. If they introduce that matrix display, I'll go play it. It will first show up in their small handheld LRF. They're going to send me some sort of a handheld. I'm not sure if that's going to be it or not. It should be here in a couple of months, I think. And then get into the binoculars. There'll be a couple of other small changes to make it better. Again, the LRF alignment and all sort of stuff. But I don't think they released that information yet, so I shouldn't talk about it. But the information about the improved display with all the information in one shot that they've mentioned, so that's coming.
That is one thing I was highly impressed with the data readout on the Vector X's.
They did a very good job.
Yeah. I have not purchased a Vector X because I'm waiting to see if they actually will hold up to their promised warranty service in the U.S.
Okay.
Right. I just want to make sure because they're notorious for poor customer service.
Well, the Victronics comes out of the .mil world, not .civ world.
Right.
So it's a little bit different.
Right. Well, I know a lot of guys on the dark side of the military And even that site had a hard time getting stuff fixed or replaced.
Correct, because that's fairly common in the .mil world, right? In
Right.
the .mil world, once the contract's out, it's very hard to switch.
Right.
The civilian side, if you don't get good customer service, you go to a competitor, right? So
Yep.
if
Yeah, I
Swarovski
mean,
has
it
good
makes
customer
sense.
service, Leica seems to have good customer service, Zeiss seems to have good customer service.
Yep.
None of them are as fast as Vortex, but they're
That's
all
because
quite.
Vortex doesn't freaking care. They're just like, here you go. Vortex is a marketing company, not an optics company. Now,
Oh, they are an optics company.
they have changed recently, right? Last couple of years.
More than couple.
Since the AMG came out,
Yeah,
which
that's
was
more than
what,
decade,
6, 7 years ago? The AMG,
decade,
maybe
10 years,
8 years ago.
10.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, that makes sense. It came out right as I started my business.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't really a optics company until they made the AMG. They were more of a marketing company, and
They've got
since then they have done some incredible things.
they have a serious engineering department. They do a ton of shit in the United States. I mean, and Vortex is a serious company.
Yeah, but it wasn't 10 years ago.
No, it's not how they started. They got some money, right?
Right.
This company need to invest a lot of money. You need to first make that money.
Yep. I
But
mean, it's
they.
like Browning. You know what
What
Browning's?
about Browning?
You know what Browning's top selling product is?
I have no clue.
Did you know Browning sells more hats than Nike, Reebok, and I can't remember, Adidas combined?
Damn, that's impressive.
Yeah, they sell more hats. Like they own the world in hat manufacturing. So, and then they make guns for fun. Like I think just to keep
Yeah.
up their heritage.
Yes.
Got to keep John Moses Browning's legacy alive with the
So that's what it is.
Browning
Actually,
machine gun and all the
to
other crap he made.
interrupt you real quick. So all my the number counts are saying that there's nobody watching this, but yet I'm getting questions in the chat box. Okay.
Mine shows
So,
11 on YouTube and 1 on stream.
yeah, it
Or
shows
Rumble.
now. It just changed literally 2 seconds ago.
It's
It
been
was
doing
always
it the whole time, Ilya. It's been doing it the whole time. It's going up and down, up and down, up and down.
not that I don't want to talk to just Aaron, but
We would change topics if it was just talking to me.
that's probably true.
He owes me a phone call on another topic, which
I
we're
do.
going to get to hopefully in the next couple weeks.
All right, absolutely.
Once I get through this book, by the way, you should pick it up and listen to it or read it.
Yeah, I got it. I just got it on Audible and listened to it.
Yeah, the first just the intro caught me, and I went back to read it to make sure I hadn't missed anything or again because the freaking first five. I've never had a book reach out and grab me like that in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, that's good. I've heard good things about the book and about the author, but remember, most of what I read about Russia has been in Russian.
Right.
And the stuff that I've read about Russia in English has been specific to specific events. I've read a lot about the Communist Revolution in English to get a different perspective and all that sort of stuff. But World War II, that kind of
this
stuff.
one's taken a very different approach. We'll talk offline about it,
Yeah,
but very different approach. More of the mystical, mythical politicalization of the heroes of Russia and kind of how they've taken history that has no actually like hard facts and then twisted it into propaganda. Basically, it'll be very interesting. You just read it. Just the opening of the book caught my attention. I don't think they're going to take either side, right? I think it's going to be right in the middle.
I hope so. I don't know for sure. But Russia is uniquely susceptible to propaganda and to bullshit culturally.
The author called out that no one's rewritten their history more than Russia. So it'll be very, very interesting. I'm like 13% of the way through it, so we'll have to talk offline about that one.
Yeah, we'll talk about
let's answer some more questions.
Mr. Alpine, I've had the Swarovski range-finding binoculars currently running Victory RF. Looking through them back to back, I slightly prefer the Zeiss optically. That's perfectly reasonable. They're very close, and like your eyes may like one or the other. And the laser performance was a little better, so I sold the Swaros. I haven't spent as much as I would like it, but I felt Leica was best with color contrast and color in general, but I've never owned the Leicas. I think that's fair.
I mean, and Swaros struggles a little bit on the electronic nature of their stuff.
A little bit, but it's gotten better also. Like, look, Swaro people hate me and I dislike them, but they make a good product.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't have anything against their glass or whatever. The newest generation of Swaro rangefinder, a lot of the NRL Hunter guys have gone to because it was faster than the Vortex Furies.
Correct.
Like the readout was faster, and they're freaking phenomenal. Like the glass in those are amazing.
I will say this: having looked side by side very, very carefully, I think in the center field, in the sweet spot, Leica is better. Edges are better with Swarovski, and the field of view is a little wider with Swarovski. Not much, but it's wider.
Yeah, I haven't spent enough time behind them to make those kind of comments. I've used the technology and
I
wasn't really worried about the picture, the image quality. I was more worried about the technology and how it
uh,
works.
because I was worried about finding stuff, and because I live at the base of the mountain, I just went out. I have this orange brown mountain. Went out before sunset and spent a lot of time looking into the sun, away from the sun, this direction, that direction, at monotone rocks, at trees, at cars, at everything, as the light went down into pitch dark. You learn a lot about optics as you go through light transitions.
Yeah, so I have a very similar brown mountain behind my house. I think it's 1.3 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
Goes up to 10,000 feet behind my house.
Yeah.
And there's always elk or deer on the mountainside, so you can always spot animals, and it's all brown. And there's some farming under it, so you can get some contrast. I did the same thing with rifle scopes one day.
Mm-hmm.
I sat out there for like 4 hours, and all my neighbors were scared to death. But I sat out there for like 4 hours, and I was looking through the different ones, and they all looked the same in bright light. But as soon as those clouds came over, as soon as it started to dip, it was like, whew, this is where the difference is. Right?
That's what the difference is. Okay. Mr. Jordan Ashby is heading to Lapua end of April. Good choice. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Lapua guy, go to Lapua. Ely also has a testing center as well, and that's the key to rimfire. You have to match the ammo to the gun, and it has to be lot specific.
Mm-hmm.
Ammo made Center X made 3 months ago versus ammo made yesterday won't shoot the same out of your gun. That's why you lot test. So take it down there, well worth it.
Well, one lot is 5,000 rounds. They let you buy up to 2 lots, so I walked away with 10,000 rounds, which will last me for a while.
I don't think they let you do that anymore, do they? When was the last time you bought?
A couple of years ago.
With the ammo shortages and the popularity of the 22 stuff, I think they're limiting it to 5,000 rounds.
Yeah, I bet I can talk about it.
Well, yeah, you and I can do it. We're industry folks. Not everybody can do it.
I'm very persuasive.
Well, that's right, because you know how to hold people's toes to the fire.
Literally,
right.
Sometimes.
That's right.
Okay, Jordan, with his question. FFP mule-based hunting rifle scopes. You have spoken on the Burris XTR3. It's out of stock everywhere. Is the Steiner H6XI 3-18 a good optic? Telson, or would you point me in a different direction?
Jordan Ashby, where do you hunt, and what light conditions do you hunt in? That will give Ilya a way better idea of what to suggest to you, because the terrain you're hunting in and the lighting conditions have a huge factor.
Yeah. So I just did a side-by-side with all these 50mm scopes in fading light together with my son. I think I did a live stream on it. And I had the XTR3 there, and the Telson, and the Leupold Mark IV, and several others. Honestly, they're all pretty good.
Have you played with the XTR3 Pro?
XTR Pro, yes, I have one.
Yeah. The glass in that one's better than the normal XTR3.
Correct. Yeah, it's an improved rifle setup for Western hunting, etc. Honestly, I'm gonna. So, if you're looking for the best bang for the buck, I would just buy that 3-18 by 50 Telson in the next 3 days, because you can get it for a lot less money than it's going to be going for shortly.
Cost me $1,027.88.
Exactly.
I just bought it on the live stream.
Between now and 3 days from now, was it until between now and the 16th? So that might be your best bang for the buck. The caveat is that, so the scope I have is from that first production batch. They just had 10 of them hand carried to SHOT Show, and I walked away with one of them. So they should be relatively consistent, but it's still a new company and relatively new scope. I'm not worried about support. They're good guys. I know them well. And the scope is based on the design that's been out for a little while, but it is improved and it has new turrets. The basic thing is that I cannot fully endorse it until enough of them out there and I've looked at how they hold up. Because I cannot draw anything statistically significant based on sample of one.
Yep.
Right? Which doesn't work that way.
So, yeah, go ahead, Haley.
I'm saying if it was my money, right now I would get the Telson, but partly because of all of these, Telson and the Leupold Mark IV have a reticle that's the most flexible between them. Telson is a 3 reticle. Mark IV, I have it with a PR1 mil, which is a non-3 reticle. If you want a 3 reticle, I just do the Telson and be done with it. Although, once again, new company, new design, there are some risks associated with it.
So I'm not the biggest Western hunter, but my business partners are, and they all run 7-35 Mark Vs. Their average shot distance though is between 600 and 800 yards.
Well, I'm sort of a Western hunter. I've never shot at the game that far. I've been able to keep everything inside of 500 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it just really depends on what you're doing and what you're using. The 7-35 Mark Vs are incredible scopes. It just depends. Are you going to be out at low light, and that's what you need? Probably. So I've only killed one deer my whole life. I killed him 5 minutes before sundown, shooting from the top of the ridge in bright sun into shadow, and I couldn't see him for my second shot. I was using a Leupold VX6i, and since that experience, I will spend whatever money it takes to put a glass on my scope or a glass on my gun that I can see into the shadows with very little light. So I will never do that. I hit the animal a little too far back. I found it the next morning, but I will not use anything that I can't see into the shadows. So I would run a. Me personally, I put a Night Force ATACR on a scope. I'd put a Zico. I'd put a Leupold Mark V.
It's still the 3-15 by 50 tangent.
Yeah, or that one. The 4-20 Zico is clearer than the higher power ones. It's freaking amazing.
Correct.
But the Mark IV,
low powers.
According to Leupold, they won't tell you this officially, but the Mark IV has actually got better glass clarity than the Mark V does. So.
Depends. So the 4.5 to 18 Mark IV is better than the 3.6 to 18 Mark V.
Yep.
But with the larger one, so if you want to do Mark V, which is a nice scope, the best one is a 5 to 25. That's a sweet spot of that line. It is measurably better than 7 to 35.
That's what I use on my centerfire PRS gun. I use a 5 to 25 Mark V.
Nice scope. And it is relatively light. For me personally, I've never been in a situation where I needed that much power in the field. And for me, low magnification is more useful than high magnification.
No.
3 to 15, 15, 4 to 20.
My business partners and I, we hunt in a pack. So there's 3 guys with glass and 1 guy with a rifle. So you can zoom in all day because you've got 3 guys walking you in onto the target. So, and we carry Swaro spotting scopes and Maven binos, and everyone has a rangefinder. Like typically 1 guy has a tag and the other 3 guys are there just to make sure he fills the tag and for fun, right? So we hunt very differently. So it just kind of depends on your style.
You guys are having too much fun. I'm either with a guide or alone. Alone is not nearly as much fun.
2 of my business partners are brothers, and then they have a middle brother, and then their dad hunts. So I got kicked out of the hunting club when last year because there's now too many of them because one of the wives hunts too. So I got booted. Jerk faces. But yeah, so they hunt as a freaking pack, and it works extremely well.
That's a little bit different.
Yeah. Especially when you have them up ahead running ridges and doing weird shiz, they have a very high success rate.
Yeah, good for them. So. For me, it's relatively straightforward. If I'm going alone or with a guide, it'll be this binocular, my fixed rifle, usually 3 to 15 or 3 to 18 or something like that scope on it, and we're off to the races. Yeah. Honestly, like a bunch of the scopes here that I have that would be appropriate, but for low light, a 50mm objective is your best bet. And again, if money is no object, go get a Tangent 3 to 15 Hunter and be done with it, and you're good for the rest of your life.
Yep.
If you're trying to get the best bang for the buck, $1,000 to $1,500 is where it's at. If you want to be the lightest possible, Vortex Razor Edge DLHT 4.5 to 22 by 50 is your Huckleberry. Per ounce, it is still the best. If you want the best bang for the buck right at this moment, over the next 3 days, it's the new 3 to 18,000. So that's your options.
I'm excited. A mutual friend sent me a cantilever mount for it, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him on here next week.
I want to see what a blem looks like, because he's like, I'm gonna go look in the blem pile for you, jerkface. So
Oh, I did not have the blend pile. I'll need to remind him that he has other friends.
that's right. That's exactly what you need to do, because he was like, I sent him one of those like little coy text messages, kind of baiting to see if he'd send me a mount, and he's like, let me go see what's in the junk pile, or the blem pile, or the return pile. So he found one. So,
He's very resourceful.
so I'm not going to
Okay,
say no to that.
yeah, Mr. Alpine. Any idea when is the new Meta front focal plane that's a Schmidt and Bender going to be available? I've owned a lot of Schmidt and Bender scopes over the years and have never needed to send one for service. I've heard they no longer have stateside warranty service. Would this make you less inclined to run a Schmidt and Bender? Is it not or is it not an issue in your opinion?
It's a Schmidt and Bender.
So,
They just run.
yeah, anything made by man can and does fail. I've seen Schmidts fail too.
Yeah, I mean, we watch a tangent hit you in the forehead.
Correct. Freaking tangent. When I tell people, they want to see pictures because they don't believe me.
Yeah.
Shit happens. It would not preclude me from buying one if it is within your budget and the performance is what you're looking for.
And if the reticle is actually decent.
Well, this new front focal plane method, surprisingly, absolutely shockingly, purely backs and has a pretty decent reticle.
Okay, I'll have to look. Does it still have the weird shape to it? Schmidt and Bender's, that iconic Schmidt and Bender style.
You mean with the illumination turret?
Yeah, on the very back of the scope.
No, it does not. Let me show you.
I'll tell you what, Schmidt and Bender, I really like Schmidt and Bender. They just fell behind the reticle curve, and they got a little outdated.
Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. Let me show you something then.
While you're looking at that, you know the other scopes that Craig needs to get in his scope lineup. He needs to get a Heinstolt in there.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does, because it would just show what a waste of money they are.
Oh, okay. Well, they're not really commercially available in the United States. It's just a waste of effort. So here it is. So I'm waiting for one with this DT-23 turret. Should be sometime in the summer.
What? That looks good.
I know, shocking. Like somebody who knew what he was doing was helping them.
Someone finally got drunk at Schmidt and Bender and actually let their creativity out.
No, they just
still don't like the reticle's still okay. Let's see.
I've shot with it at shot, right? So they had it on the 308 during range day. I hit that 1,000-yard little blue plate in the wind, which I was pretty happy about.
Oh, actually, it's not bad. Let's see. You got center dot. Is that 2/10 to the next dot?
Yeah, it's 0.2 to the hash mark.
And then it's 4/10 on the second dot, and then it's half in the middle.
Half further out, and the half MOA dots in the tree.
Oh no! Wait, that's one MOA right there.
Yeah. Half mil. This is mil-irradian reticle.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Half a mil.
Let me see if I can get this picture to be bigger. Yes, I can. There you go.
Okay, so you got dash. So the first big red line is 1 mil.
Correct.
So you've got your mil dot. So you've got. It would take some getting used to.
It's not bad. So it's a crossover hunting reticle. So they illuminated the stuff in the center. It's reasonably visible. The idea is that you are not going to be. You're going to be on moderate powers a lot.
And you're shooting big targets.
Yeah, shooting relatively big targets. But again, I would have zero issues taking this reticle to an NRL Hunter match.
You need to come shoot an NRL 22 match, and then you'll be like, "That's why 2/10 hashes exist."
No, man, I shoot 210. I shoot with 210 hashes all the time, and I shoot at 22s far away all the time. Right? I know why they exist.
Do you shoot at the 1/4-inch KYLs?
I have one.
Yeah, so the little tiny stem.
I have the whole rack, and the one on the right is just a stem.
Yeah, like you put that at 75 yards and practice on that stem.
And that sucks.
Yeah, you get very frustrated if your reticle is not like
Yeah,
fine. Like it's got to be.
it
You
has to
need
be
2
fun.
tenths hashes, and you need like. So that's where I get really picky because that's what I do. Like this makes perfect sense if you're shooting human beings and animals. Like you don't need more fine adjustment than that.
Or remember, right? So in NRL Hunter, all the plates are 2 MOA or bigger, and most of them quite a bit bigger.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's
So
true.
2 MOA, if you wanna translate it, is just over half a mil. So
Yeah, I mean, I just get used to shooting like tiny 22 targets. So
this is not a scope.
sometimes I forget that there's bigger targets out there.
Look, here's the thing. The deal with reticles, and Schmidt is beginning to understand it, and more people are beginning to understand it. Sometimes less is more. With modern, relatively sophisticated reticles, if you are torturing yourself with, should I put this extra feature in or not? More often than not, the answer is don't put it in.
Don't be trimmer.
Exactly. Right.
Don't be a trimmer
Because
reticle.
it becomes a slippery slope. It's too easy.
And that's why I adore the new Gen 3 Razor reticle and the Mill XT reticle and the PR2
Yeah, two
and
is
the
a good
PR3
reticle.
reticles. They meet that happy balance.
Yeah. Reasonably so, right? So the Gen 3 reticle for me is too thin for low powers because they don't have the thick bars outside. I like to have them go in.
Yeah, I only use mine in 22 and I run that bad boy on like 20
Correct.
to 25
They're
power
always in high power, right? So,
exclusively.
and to be fair, right, that's not what normally sits on my 22 when I'm not testing something. So
Yeah, that's
if
why
I
there's a red dot on top of my 22 because I don't dial it down below 18. That bad boy stays at like between 18 and 25 power. And then if I'm doing really fine shooting like a stem at 75 yards, you crank that thing up to about 30 power.
yeah.
Because then
Well,
I can make
last
beautiful
time I was
shots.
shooting this KYL target, I was doing standing off of a tripod on that little stem.
It's
Oh,
hard.
talk
Makes you
about
frustrated.
frustration. Yeah, I you know, but I was hitting about 1 out of 3 times maybe.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, it's
It's
hard. I shot a match where they put it I can't remember if it was 75 or 92 yards. And man, it was ridiculous. So, and the reason it's hard for the audience that doesn't know is your cone of fire is big, right? For a 22 at 100 yards, right? That cone of fire is an inch, right? So you have a stem, a little teeny stem. So you may perfectly aim and perfectly pull the trigger, but the bullet's just not going to hit it, right? It's a probability of being where are you hitting inside that cone of fire. And that's one of the other things I learned from that intro class is we did Bryce Bergen's milk jug challenge.
hmm
And there's a reason he gives you 10 shots because most guns are capable of hitting the milk jug once out of every 10 shots.
But here's the tough part, right? You miss and you think, okay, wind or I pulled it. You start making adjustments. When you
Nope,
start making
you
adjustments,
can't make any adjustments.
you have to have faith in your gun and your zero.
Yeah, I cold bored it. He videoed it and I cold bored it and he's like that's anticlimactic and I was like I've been calling wind for an hour for the whole class. And my dad just shot it. My gun's not really cold. Like my dad shot it. It's been sitting for 20 minutes. And I hit it in practice before I gave like my gun to my dad, so I knew it was dialed in. I was like, I center punched it. Yeah. What do you expect? I don't have a cold gun and I've been calling wind for 45 minutes.
And you got lucky with the cone of fire. So
Yeah, and I got lucky with the cone of fire. That gun at 1,000 yards, I think would hold 10 inches, which is just barely inside the milk jug.
yeah.
So
Anyhow, the point of the matter here, if you're gonna be doing 22 and you can afford a voodoo, get a voodoo. For the
yep.
rest of us, T1X is good enough.
You can do a T1X, you can do a CZ457. So a couple things that I've learned: CZs very rarely have feeding issues. Their magazines feed. Tiga T1Xs, same thing. The RPR really depends. Sometimes you have feeding issues, sometimes you don't. What's the other one? The Bagara B14R. is finicky. You got to tune it to the chassis you run it in. But shameless plug, if you want a heavy barreled Bagara action, go see the boys over at A&J Sporting Goods, right? You can get a heavy barreled Bagara for half the price of a Voodoo. Now, if you want to play with the big boys, it just requires really good equipment and knowing your equipment extremely well.
I think I'll run out of my 2 lots of Center X before my skills are sufficient to require a Voodoo. But on the other hand, there is a really high chance I'm gonna buy one before then, because I have a Voodoo in 17 HMR, and it's just unbelievable.
You gonna go 90 degree or 60?
60.
I love my 60. I love it.
My 17 is 90. So.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jordan Ashby is telling me when in Charleston go to Heavy's Bar Burger. Okay, I'll make a note of it. So what's happening in the summer in mid-July? My wife and my kids are planning to go to a Zach Bryan concert in New Jersey. I'm gonna go there at the same time for some work stuff, and when they're done with the concert, we'll hop in the car and drive along the East Coast, go to Outer Banks, and end up probably in Charleston, spend a few days there. They've never really been on the East Coast going south from New York, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, but that would be the reason why I probably won't make it to Tony's match, and I really want to. Aside from the fact, I introduced me to Tony at SHOT, seemed like a really interesting guy, but I have a selfish reason. I need to find a way to take some classes from him.
So. Yeah, he teaches some good intro classes. His intro to long range class he's definitely a military guy, and he's definitely used to teaching people that are shooting man-sized targets. So a couple times I had to hold my comments because his training is beautiful, and it works very well for shooting big targets and people and animals. It does not apply as well to PRS, especially rimfire PRS. You have to be way more precise than he alluded to in his class, but his class is awesome. So
for me, any training is a good thing. Again, I know enough trainers. Phil Vallejo has a new training thing called the Caterer. Frank Gully teaches classes, right? If I have an opportunity, I'll take any of those.
Phil Vallejo teaches natural point of aim and length of pull better than anybody else on the internet. You want to learn how to set your rifle up for natural point of aim and length of pull? It's all free. It's on his YouTube channel. It's on his Instagram. Go watch it. I was lucky enough when I first started shooting, I shot with Vallejo a lot. He's not as active in the competition scene as he used to be.
Oh, but he just had a baby. So.
Well, yeah, he had a baby and he started a business. He got out of the Marine Corps. He did a bunch of things. I'm not as active as I used to be either, right? COVID kind of dampened some things, but I in the early days I shot with Vallejo like every couple months. It was awesome. So
yeah, Phil is a good dude, and once again, I have no shortage of people who I would like to take a class from.
Well, he just teaches really well. I think he's a natural born teacher. He just teaches very well.
He communicates ideas well. So.
Yep.
The basic problem is that I'm a sort of a professional smartass, and it's very difficult to keep my mouth shut in classes.
Oh, I do the same thing.
Yeah. And some people respond well to it, some don't. I can't help but think that Tony probably will be okay with it.
Yeah. I think you might get some interesting comments back from.
Oh, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah. His uncle jokes are the best. Okay.
Very cool. Okay, I think we got done with the comments. And unless there is any other pertinent questions, I thought that I want to wrap up in about 20 minutes. I want to keep this down to 2 hours.
Yeah, I've got a hard stop at 9. So.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about this thing I'm kicking off with the 40-something millimeter objective scopes. So I talked about the 50s. I did a live stream, a few videos through the scope videos. I did a stereoscope video on the Telson and the Leupold and the Burris and all that sort of stuff. And I talked about comparison, how they compare in terms of bang for the buck and all that. And they were all not in the same price range, but broadly comparable. I looked in my safe and I realized I have a ton of front focal plane scopes of relatively different configurations, all with 40 to 44 millimeter objectives. And price-wise, they're from $600 to $3,000. But fundamentally, they're all aimed at overlapping types of shooting. It's not the same, but overlapping. And rather than try to do a like-to-like comparison, I thought I'd throw them all in a pile, talk about the differences, talk about where they fit the best, what application, what use, and things like that. Okay. So I'm just kicking this off. I'm open to suggestions. If there is any specific attribute any of you are looking for that you'd like me to cover, I'll be happy to do so. The bulk of the testing is going to be on various accurate AR-15s, although some of these scopes are clearly aimed at more of a hunting world bolt guns, but they do fine on the AR-15s. So that's going to be the focus. I look at a lot of these as optics for accurate 223s, 224 Valkyries, 6 arcs, 6.5 grand, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Here are the contenders. You want me to start on the cheap end or an expensive end?
Let's start on the cheap and work up.
Alrighty. I'm gonna get you off the screen, Aaron, for a moment.
Yep.
Okay. On the tripod next to me, well, that's technically it's a monopod. Okay. On the left is the GPO Centuri Ultra Short 4 to 16 by 44. Front focal plane, locking turrets. This scope is seriously short. It is so short that I actually had a hard time mounting it on a bolt action because the objective bell and an eyepiece interfere with the rail. But in a taller rings, let me turn it sideways. In a taller rings like this, it fits on the AR-15 flat top without any issues. I don't need a mount, anything like that. I've been now spending quite a bit of time with this scope, and for what it costs, it's surprisingly decent. But what really surprised me is how decent it is given how short it is. Okay. Field of view is pretty decent. It is very, very short. And given how short it is and the fact that it's a decent field of view, it works surprisingly well in front of a thermal clip-on. Okay. So that's one of the things I want to explore. The vehicle for this scope is going to be a 6.5 grand AR-15, and I'll be testing it with and without a thermal clip-on. If I have a chance, I'll go shoot a pig with it, something like that. Okay. The other very, relatively speaking, inexpensive scope is, I have this strewn all over the place here. Let me see what I have. Is this it? No, this is not it. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. So this is a scope that nobody talks about, but for the money, it actually has a good bit to offer. This is a Swamp Fox Warhawk 2 to 10 by 44. Okay. Side focus, locking turrets, no zero stop, but a pretty sophisticated tree reticle. In many ways, this is a DMR scope to run with a reticle. It has a Swamp Fox's Reese Mill reticle. Aaron, are you familiar with this sucker at all?
I am familiar with the brand, but I don't have any experience with actually physically touching their products.
This is the higher end line. This is basically, in terms of quality level, this runs on the same general quality level as the Vortex Strike Eagle thereabouts, $600 scopes. But this low power one surprised me with how decent it is. It is heavier than I like, but for the money, it is actually pretty damn decent. Okay. So what is the hope for this? I honestly don't know. Some sort of an accurate 223 is probably the place for it. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to test. I mean, I've had this for a while. I know it works, and a lot of the comparison data I already have in my head, but I'll just go and verify things with a side-by-side. Probably one of the ARs. Next up in price is probably this guy, and I've reviewed this already. It's a optomechanically very sound, but deeply flawed in other ways product. This is a Blackhound 2 to 12 by 44. Japan Optics Limited, same OEM as makes the Telson scopes. This is optically, this is one of the better designs. It looks very long because there is a sunshade currently on it. Okay, this is what it looks like. Just to give you an idea, it's significantly longer than the super short GPO, but compared to the other scopes here, it's going to be about the right. It's not very long. It's excellent behind a clip-on. 2 power, nice wide field of view on the low end. Reticle is okay. They really goofed when they made a covered elevation turret. This scope needed an exposed zero stop elevation turret. Technically, I was done with it. I was going to sell it. I put it up. Nobody bought it, and I forgot about it. Probably should have lowered the price. But since I still have it, I'm going to use it in my comparison. Okay. So this one was technically 1200-ish. You can easily find this under $1,000. GPO, I think, is $600-700. Swamp Fox, I think, is about 600-ish, something like that. Moving on up in price a little bit. So this guy in the middle, that's arguably one of the more interesting scopes here, although it's one of the simpler ones too. That's a Leupold Mark IV 2.5 to 10 by 42. Front focal plane TMR, no side focus, excellent elevation turret, 0 log, 0 stop, and it's nice and lightweight. In some ways, this is one of probably the best, or one of the best budget-ish designated marksman scopes out there. The bad part is Leupold did the reticle a little bit. TMR is a nice enough design, but it's not modern, and you can do better in the modern world. But Leupold does things with reticle that Leupold wants to do with the reticle. So yeah. There is a reason why, on the high there is already this vernacular that the reticle got Leupolded. That's so many different of Mark V and Mark IV. It's not that the reticles are necessarily bad. It's just nobody can figure out why don't they do better, because they're almost there. Like with the 3 reticles, they have the PR2 mil, the John Pinch reticle, excellent reticle. Why can't they freaking illuminate it? Just the center. For years we've been begging them. So no.
Well, that's the reason I ordered a Telson, right?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to put a Mark IV 3-18 on top of my gun and put a clip on in front of it, but it's not illuminated.
Well, the 4.5 to 18 is illuminated, but 4.5 is not low enough power.
Right. You said it had to be 3 power. That's right.
It doesn't have to be, but you want to start on relatively wide angle. Okay. Going up in price is one of the scopes that surprised me the most during SHOT Show. This guy, that's a new Leapers Integrix 3 to 18 by 44. This is one of the first ones made. They sent it to me. I did quite a lot of shooting with it since SHOT Show. I'm really impressed. I mean, this scope is going to kick some ass. It's 1500-ish, thereabouts. Right now they're made in Taiwan. They're building a facility to make these in the US. For a relatively new manufacturer, this is incredibly impressive. The new Meprolite scope is the same OEM, so I assume it's the same more or less scope. Reticle's not bad. It needs some work. They're open to criticism. Locking, 0 stop turret's done really well. With this turret, I would have preferred smaller covered one, but it's locking. It's not too bad. Optically, extremely well optimized. I was surprised with how nice it is. Mechanically, everything works. Everything is smooth. We'll see if they can maintain this in production. But for now, between this and the Telson, I think the mid-range for crossover scopes is going to get disrupted, honestly. So, next step up in price, this is about $2,000. That's the guy here. That's the Delta Striker 3.5 to 21 by 44. It's a light optics work scope. In a nutshell, this is what the Mark V 3.6 to 18 should have been in terms of optical quality and all that sort of stuff. Just slightly bigger, not by much. Still very much in the crossover world. Non-locking elevation turret, but with a 0 stop, covered windage, side focus illumination. pretty sophisticated 3 reticle. This is about $2,000. It is not as good with clip-ons as some others here because it's 3.5 on the low end, but good enough. Good size, good weight. Arguably one of the best accurate AR-15 scopes on the market. And last, by far the most expensive and one of the more controversial scopes on the market, March 1.5 to 15 by footage. It is this long with a sunshade that just dropped on my toe. 10 power erector ratio, illuminated, side focus, zero stop, locking turrets. This is probably the purest expression of the whole mid-power variable optic idea. But if you shove everything in one scope, something's going to be compromised. So here's a big question. What is compromised? Is it worth the money? What does it offer that would make you spend $3,000 or close to $3,000 on this scope versus everybody else here that's broadly comparable in terms of size and weight, right? What does much do that the other ones here don't? That's going to be part of the discussion. So that's the lineup. I've got 7 scopes here. A while back, I swore that I'm never going to do a comparison that big again because it's a huge pain in the ass and it's a lot of scopes. But here we are. Questions, concerns, Christmas wishes. You guys have 8 minutes before I call it quits. Mr. Alpine, I've been looking at the Delta Striker, but the new Meta FFP got my attention, as I mentioned earlier. If you can afford Meta, it's hard to go wrong with that. Spectacular scope, I think. The one I saw, the one I had at shot was spectacular. And I spent a lot of time with a second focal plane version. Delta's a different price range, right? So you just, like with anything with optics, you kind of have to figure out how much money am I really willing to spend and decide from there.
Right. And how many rifles you have to put glass on?
Yeah, well, I have more glass than rifles.
Well, I got more rifles than glass, so send some over here.
I was going to suggest the opposite. Send some over here.
Yeah, I'll send some guns. Yeah, and that was one of the determining factors why I stepped away from the really high-end glass. Is I just couldn't afford to put high-end glass on all my guns. So look, I went into the middle.
Look, my original plan, right? I don't have a tangent data with everything, right? My original plan was to take my 6.5 Creedmoor fix, put a 7-35 tangent on it, and just shoot everything with that. Except my fix with the ammo I wanted to use ended up having feeding issues. So I sent it to Q. They are putzing around with it. Just talked to Nick earlier today. Next week he'll finally grab it to the range and try to go figure out what's happening. And until it comes back, I'm screwing around with different rifles at different matches, right? So, and even then, the match in California I shot with another fix that's almost identical, except it's a 308. In Colorado, I might do the fix of the 308 again. I might do 6.5 PRC. I don't yet know. Once my Creed is back, that's my match gun, and I'm not shooting anything else. So. Because for the things that I want to do, that's pretty much what I'm gonna get. I need to find a way to shoot some local matches. Local matches are more PRS style matches, so there's all the people there like you with 25-pound guns. I don't want to build a 25.
I don't like 25-pound guns. I like a 20-pound gun.
Okay. Mine is 16 if I keep the impact on it, and 2.5-pound bipod and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I started shooting PRS with a 16-pound gun, and I'll tell you what, if you can creep it up to 18 or 20, it does make a difference.
So I looked at it a little bit. I bought a couple of weights that will go on a Q-cert handguard. Just trying to balance some stuff out for practice. For NRL Hunter, I'm not gonna use him, but if I decide to shoot some local matches, adding a pound up front is gonna help the balance a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the key. It's more than just weight. I would go lighter if the gun balances perfectly. That's my opinion. I would give up weight for balance if I had to.
Well, so the nice thing about the fix, despite the fact that the stock is folding, the stock is very, very light. So because the stock is so light, I don't need as heavy of a barrel to get the balance just right.
Right. The MPA Matrix chassis, the bus stock is very heavy, and it requires. That's why I have a 24-inch 1-2 straight taper on a 22, because that barrel, I didn't have to add any extra weights. The barrel balanced the gun perfectly.
And so balancing the fix is relatively easy without making the gun super heavy, and I don't want, again, once my 6.5 Creed comes back, I don't want to, I just want to use that gun for any and all competitions I'm going to do until I kill the barrel, and then we'll see.
And then a new barrel. And then another barrel.
Okay, so Mr. Alpine, any idea when the new primary arms 2.5 to 20 will hit the market? I feel like there's a lot of good optics that are almost available. So primary arms 2.5 to 20 is supposed to get here about midsummer. I briefly considered waiting for it and adding it to this comparison. I already have a bunch of scopes, and the primary arms is 2.5 to 20 by 48. So the way areas work, I'm gonna count it as more closer to a 50 than to a 42. But I'll be looking at one when it gets here. But again, you kind of need to decide what kind of reticle you want. If you want a 3 reticle, I did not like the primary arms 3 reticles. There's too much. But the non-3 reticle, the Deca G2, looked pretty good.
Yeah, that's a big consideration when you're purchasing a scope as reticle. Don't. Yeah, I almost now will yeah. I almost now do my rifle scope selection solely based on reticle.
Well, within a certain range of good scopes. But like manufacturers do interesting things, like with this Black Hound, for example. So it comes with a sunshade, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna rotate the sunshade shade to look through the sunshade. Tell me if you see anything weird.
It has a whatever those are called in it.
ARD, right? They built an ARD inside the sunshade, so it's not removable. Can you explain to me, as an intelligent person, why do you need ARD inside a long sunshade?
Just in case the commies are behind the bushes. I don't know.
It's like, oh, if we have one, it's good, but if we have two, it's better.
It's
right?
marketing.
It's like there are certain things with this scope. Again, like optomechanically, really nice, but in many other ways, I'm looking at this going like, okay, I don't know who was thinking about this, but not entirely sure they were thinking. And the funny thing is that I wrote up, what I do. I don't blindside manufacturers, right? I give them a heads up on what I'm going to say. And if they want to offer a rebuttal, I'll publish that as well. I have no issues with that. I'm still going to publish everything, but at least nobody's going to be blindsided.
A man
And
of transparency.
I gave them every chance, and then the guy who was talking to left the company, and that's it. So, but I talked to him. He didn't have a good explanation. He was like, yeah, yeah, that's the best I got out of him.
That's a little frustrating.
All right, we are about to wrap up. So, Aaron, thank you for joining me again. On a short notice, we were just chatting yesterday, and he said he'll pop on.
Hey, if you ever want to do a live stream and you need someone to chat with you, just let me know.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it's actually very helpful. So next week, I'm going to try to get Craig Arnzen from Area 419 to come and join me. They published a large comparison of high-end scopes, generally done pretty decently. Some things they did about on terms of optics, I don't think they did as well as they could have. I had a ton of people ask me to take it apart. I thought it was rude because I don't want to do it behind anybody's back, so I mentioned to Craig, how about we do it in the live stream? Come on, we'll go through it. I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like. We can have a nice discussion. He's all for it. And Craig is a grown-ass adult. He's not going to take it personally.
No, yeah, Craig is a great guy, and
Yeah.
they're not an optics company, right?
Well,
Area 419 is not an optics company,
yeah.
right?
They
I
make the
thought
best mounts on the market, but they're not
right,
optics.
but I thought they did a very objective kind of test. Now, you're an optics guy and a physicist, and you understand all of this stuff in depth. So pick it apart. That's cool.
So the optics part, again, so if I'll explain, when we go into details on that, I'll explain why.
Yeah, that's
If
fine.
I didn't understand it, I should have been embarrassed. The fact that they don't understand it is normal. Most people don't understand this. Unless you work with this, you don't understand this.
Right.
But it's
And I think
well,
the feedback you give to Craig will make their next test even better.
Absolutely.
And better. And honestly, none of them have any background in optics except for they've used them a lot. Like I don't think they
Honestly,
understand the mechanics or
the
the way stuff like the light passes through them and all that. It's like you're a physicist. This is what you do. Right?
Aaron, the only part of this whole comparison they did that I find truly irritating is that Craig knows me. He should understand what I am. And when they were setting it up, he didn't ask me.
That's true. Well, I would say Craig is getting to know you, and you need to remind him of that when you call him, because no, he just overlooked it. I mean, you have expertise that a lot of people don't have. You know what I mean? And but you know what? Craig will take the constructive feedback,
exactly.
and next time he'll fly you out to do the video. So
we'll figure it out. I want to go visit them anyway.
No, it'll be fantastic.
It's not about flying me out. There's just a couple of things about the setup they could have done differently, and it would work better. That's just
yeah.
To be fair, they have reasonable conclusions. It was well done, but there are a couple of things about optics.
They knew they were going to create controversy and waves with their video. And it did exactly what it needed to. It generates a ton of views, good publicity. Like I thought they did a good job on the video. Like I would have no idea how to even begin to come up with a test like that. I'd have to call my friend Ilya, which I would do. I'd call Ilya. Exactly. Hey, we're doing a scope. How do we do this?
That's another thing. There's misconception out there. I'm not territorial. I started doing this a long time ago. Right? There was nobody doing this in any sort of a structured manner before I showed up. I like it that other people are doing it. The only thing I want from them, do it well. If you're not sure how to do something, ask. The only time somebody asked me for help and I politely got out of it was Cal Zant. Remember that PRB review a long time ago? Precision Rifle blog?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So he asked me for help. I talked to him a little bit, and I politely got out of it. It was not because of being territorial. Cal is a bright guy. He's a nice guy. He can't tell his ass from an elbow. And it would have been a huge amount of work to get him going because he had a lot of energy and he wasn't super trainable. That's just it, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with intelligence. Smart guy. Some people are trainable, some are not.
Craig is Craig's a good dude. I've had him over at the house. He stayed at my house before, and he's a good dude. I went to the NRA show with him a couple of years ago. It was really good.
Yeah, I would have. I've spent enough time talking to Craig. I would have no problem helping Craig and company set up because again, these guys, they're smart guys. They just don't know this, and it's not rocket science. It's not that.
Yeah. It's just not their field of expertise. They're really good at making parts and selling them. So
do a very good job. Oh, Mr. Andrews here. Just as we're wrapping up, Mr. Gonto to Minnesota.
Bye.
So, Andrew, it is good to see you here. We've been at it for 2 hours. We have a relatively hard cutoff. So I'm sorry I'm going to have to close it up. I'm going to do another live stream a week from today. It's also going to be Thursday, probably about the same time.
I think we'll talk to Andrew on Sunday night. I think
Sunday night?
I think Max is doing a call with everybody.
Okay. All right, I have no idea.
If it doesn't happen this Sunday, it's going to happen next week. He's got a call to put together for everybody.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be there or not. I think I have to be there somewhere Sunday, but we'll see.
It'll be late Sunday night, so.
I've been trying to say good night for about 8 minutes.
Good night. Thank you for the invite.
and good night.